brothers and sisters. So, yeah, just a quick background with my good friend here, Josh. Um, it's Josh's idea really to get something started, and it's his idea of why it's called why this biblical worldview, because it's literally just looking at things that's happening in the world through a biblical lens, a biblical worldview, and just to present it from that standpoint. That we should not have fellowship with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. So today we're exposing nihilism. Nihilism is a word that I don't think many of us have heard of it, but it's very prevalent. When we look more into when we unravel it together, and everyone else is welcome to to add their input and suggestions in the comments. You guys are very important. Yeah, nihilism is a word that's not really known of, but is very prevalent in pop culture. And by pop culture, we mean popular culture, as in the music, even the news, the music, the news, social media feeds, dancing, any sort of the arts, is very prevalent. It's an unspoken agreement. It's an unspoken theme that's going on. So we're just speaking about it today and just uncovering it more and more, so that you guys are aware, we are more aware, and we can more identify and pick out certain things that are happening.
The definition of nihilism is the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless. And so further that, it's like the philosophy is that nothing in the world has like real existence, but except for your own interpretation of it. So it's like a form of liberalism also. So but like you said, like it's replete throughout all pop culture. When we're looking at movies, when we're looking at news, when we're looking at music, etc. So it's something that we needed to address for sure, man. But
so one thing that comes to mind when you say that, one mode that they use to push that life is meaningless or it has no sort of real existence is that through some cartoons, or like more mature cartoons, but they you say that they are cartoons that still children can watch. For example, The Simpsons. I don't have any clips to play, but there was or anything else. It would say that life is just a simulation. It's just a game. You know what I mean? Or it's just we're just here by chance, and then they'll just throw more. We're a simulation of another simulation of another simulation to kind of just show that life is meaningless in that sense. And there was one that I saw that there was like a conversation somewhere, and I saw an example of it. But also with your definition of the rejection of all religious and moral principles, it's also coupled with extreme skepticism. So if something was presented, automatically, they kind of shoot it down. So an example of a conversation would be, let's get but this is how we distinguish the pessimist, extreme skepticism from the nihilist, because if someone that's extremely skeptic would say, okay, a tree falls down in the forest, did it even make a sound? You know what I'm saying? And then the nihilist would say, did the tree even exist?
Exactly.
You understand? So this is we have someone that's skeptic. Did it even make a sound? Because no one was there to witness it. So. And then nihilists take it a step further and deny the reality of truth itself, the existence of truth itself, and say, did the tree actually exist? Now, moving on from the definition and the example. Actually, no, we're not going to move on from the definition. We're going to go a little bit more into it, right? So we have a quote here from Charles Colson, and Charles Colson, he said a widespread secularization. So secularization is this disassociation or separation from religious or spiritual concerns. So it says a widespread secularization, which is slowly happening now, and even more so now with the lockdowns. All religious institutions have been shut down. In the past they've been gradually changed in the direction that they wanted to go, but now even more so. It says a widespread secularization increasingly descends into a moral, intellectual, and nihilism that denies not only the one who is truth, which is God, but the very idea of truth itself, all around the board. It starts to deny truth. And then it says, so the definition more, if we look into secularization, it says, if a country's population has become less religious or spiritual over time, it's evidence of the secularization of the entire society. Many colleges, including Harvard University, for example, were religious institutions. I had no idea. Yeah, Harvard was a religious institution until they underwent secularization. So it's slowly stripping away from the
Yeah,
direction.
yeah, yeah. They only like believe in the relative truth. So
Mm-hmm.
of each individual as well. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of create your own standard of morality. You create your own standard of beauty. You create your own standard of self sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
And people might ask like, oh, what's so bad about that? You know what I mean? Like, why is that so dangerous? And if you think about it, think for a moment that you reject the concepts of absolute truths, yeah, that we know.
Mm-hmm.
These are the commandments and the statutes of the Most High. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that you would entertain like no single act, including like murder, rape, pedophilia. That would be the norm, because according to that philosophy or to that doctrine, any form of legal social standard will be a punishment and shame for social constructs
Mm-hmm.
implemented by man alone, not by
Mm-hmm.
any divine power or influence, right? So say you're leaving it up to man rather than up to God. Like
Right.
you're creating your own social morality, which is dangerous, because then if
Right.
one man says this is my morality, like for example, like rape and murder and pedophilia, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
then who are you to deny that? You know what I mean? So that's a really dangerous worldview for you to have, and
Right.
that's why we take the biblical worldview. Is because
Mm-hmm.
we understand that there is a supreme and creator. There is a will that he created us for.
How we can see like the disconnect on how everyone's kind of how they've consumed the youth of today is that we look at our I'm not sure. Okay, let's just say our generation, like our parents came to this country, to these countries like USA, UK from Africa and so on and so forth. And most of our parents, we know they've worked very hard, you know what I'm saying, to put us in the houses that we are in, to provide for us. Most of these times they have not been in the home. They haven't really, okay, I'm going to generalize. I'm not going to speak for myself or speak for other people. I'm going to say, okay, generally, this is what happened. When you have a parent that's kind of, they've come from, overseas into this country, they've worked very hard, so not at home. They're not really with you, spend a lot of time. So most of the time what happens is the children are left to pop culture to raise them up. You know what I mean? They have their favorite artists and they're going out to these concerts and, even, becoming friends with people that, like the same artists. You know what I'm saying? So the youth have been left to their own devices and basically have been raised by pop culture. Right? So we're going to go more into literally, the buzzword here right now is pop culture. So when you talk about music, for example, I'm not singling out these artists to say that they're bad or anything like this. Well, I am. Let me not even say them, but I'm not singling them out just to like slander them or whatever. We have certain artists like XXX, which literally passed away, and XXXTentacion, Juice WRLD. I would say generally like all artists that you hear today. You know what I'm saying? They're all employed because they further the agenda. So whether that's, Future speaking about how he takes drugs and how he wants to escape the pain, Juice WRLD talking about how many demons he's battling and whatnot. And then you had XXX, which earlier on, he was, rapping about a lot of violence. And later on became to more depression. And I'll just mention one thing about depression as well. When you listen to music that's very depressing and it is very emotional and sad, most times you listen to it, you're like, oh, I can relate to this. It brings more fruit of depression and sadness in you. So these people are, the few names that I've listed are all nihilists, at heart, and they're employed for that specific purpose, to spread those vibes, those vibrations through the airway. And so not only in the music, it's in the movies as well.
Do you know what? It's not even just movies, but like shows, like for instance, Black Mirror. Like Black Mirror is like a prime example of nihilism, because it's it's like a bleak future where we kind of like give our like divine status to technology. Do you understand? So it's like, yeah, our hope is in technology, and there's no meaning for us.
And
Basically,
science as well.
that's the indoctrination that they're playing with. That's the predictive programming that they're playing with, because they know that's what they're working towards. Do you understand? So I think that's like a perfect example for a nihilistic form of entertainment.
And then, with that being said as well, Netflix as a whole, and Netflix has put on a lot of shows that have really separated the viewers from, you know, the existence of truth itself. You know, anything that the Bible stands for, it's against. And it'll keep them hooked in with, you know, scenes of, you know, sex and whatnot. But we see like the breeding grounds, see like these are the biggest breeding grounds. You have like the movies, the music, and you have even WorldStar, you know, which is one of the biggest breeding grounds and, you know, contributors. Tumblr as well, when, you know, Tumblr before the ban. I haven't been on it in years, but, you know, Tumblr was a breeding grounds for, you know, pornographic images, you know, just nihilistic, you know, nihilistic quotes as well. You know, like little quotes that say, "I just want to die," or "Life has no meaning." It would be like sad little memes that wasn't flying around on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like little seeds of, you know, of despair, separation, and from the Father. And
sorry, no, carry on.
No, that's okay.
Cut you off. What was you gonna say?
No, I would say that it's been manifesting. It's been brewing up since like the 1950s.
For sure, man.
Really, the culture has been happening.
Definitely.
Yes, my brother Nathaniel. But so yeah, it's been brewing up since the 1950s, and it's reached to a point that it's very right now.
That it's so easy for us to kind of separate the art from the artist. Like we do that quite often, where it's like, maybe it's like, maybe they're just expressing themselves, or maybe that's just not what they believe. It's just artistic expression. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, at what point does it stop being artistic expression? Like, at what point does it really? Do you know what I mean? Like, when do we actually say, like, isn't this their reality? Isn't this what they're saying? And from a biblical worldview, what we say is, or what the word says is that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. You know? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, whatever they're saying is whatever they're actually going through. We can't really give them that license to do and say whatever they want. You know what I mean? Just because they're our favorite artists. And don't get me wrong, it's difficult to do so, especially when you love music or you have like an affinity to like a certain artist or whatnot. But at some point, you have to make a conscious decision and say that, is this good for me? As in, like, spiritually, is this good for me? What they're saying, is it benefiting my life? Because we all know the effect that music has, the type of music that you listen to. Like, we know it. When you listen to, there's a reason why clubs only play like that type of music, you know what I mean? That music about shaking booties and etc. You know what I mean? Lewd messages. There's a reason that they play that and not gospel music. There's a reason for that, because people understand frequencies. People understand the effects of music. So when you understand that at some point it will affect your life, you need to make that decision that I need to stop this. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like we need to make it more known, because it's very easy to just swipe it under the carpet and just say like, nah, like this is just for music. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how they live. No, I'm telling you, man. We've seen interviews where like the biggest artists like Billie Eilish, they're telling you like, we're all sad. We're all sad. All the artists are sad. You got to think about it. Why are they sad? Do you know what I mean? What are they going through that's so sad? Somebody that's a millionaire, that has financial freedom, that has fame. Why are they sad? It's because they know they've sold themselves into a doctrine which is a direct opposition to the creation of man. You know what I mean? It's directly opposite to what the Most High, like His will for us. Do you understand? So when you embrace that, when you accept that message, what you're doing is, in your spirit, you are connecting with whatever they are. Do you know what I mean? And that's unconsciously as well, like whether you know it or not. Like, that's what happens. That's the power of music. That's the power of frequency. And that's maybe a message that we can have in the future for sure, because that's quite a deep message. But in a sense, that's my point, is that we can't just say nihilism is just another form of thinking. Like, do you understand? We have to embrace it and look at what the effects of it is and how it's periodically affected society. Because like you said, it all started in like the mid 20th century, around the 50s, the 60s, like the postmodernism, where like, do you know what I mean? Like the Beatles came in and that whole Enlightenment era. Like that's not by chance. That was on purpose. There's a reason why society is where it is now. It's because they've built themselves up for that. Do you know what I mean? And they've used pop culture as the medium
as
for
a stage. The
exactly.
Stage show.
And it's never before have we seen like or been exposed to so much information. Like everything is just at your the tip of your fingers. You know what I mean? Like everything you want is at the tip of your fingers. When we grew up, we had to watch a TV show or like wait for our favorite TV shows or whatever. Or we had to wait for our favorite music videos. You know what I mean? We couldn't just stream it.
Now it's just like,
do you know what I'm saying? Everything's just instant. And think about like the advancement of technology from like 10 years ago till now. It's ridiculous. Like, it's crazy. Think about it.
Yeah.
From like 100 years ago, we went from like horse and carriage to like, think about the technology that they're talking about now. Why is there an advancement in technology? What is the reason for that? What are they building up to? Do you know what I mean? So we need to think about all of that. This is deep. It's deeper than we think. It's deeper than just music. It's deeper than our favorite shows. And these are shows that even myself, I can say that I would love to watch. Do you know what I'm saying? Like back in the days when I was in the world or whatever, I would love to watch it. Some of my favorite shows I can't watch anymore because I know the effect it will have on me. So yeah. So we need to make.
And just a second, that what's going on? Wow, I'm not what's going on, bro? Just a second, what you said as well. This is in Proverbs 4:23. It says, "Above all else, guard your heart."
Absolutely.
Guard your heart. So we're not speaking about this. Your heart is here. Guard it.
Yeah.
Everything you do flows from it. Right? So if you let something in, so guarding your heart is what you see, what you hear, you think. Anything that comes in, you know, that can come even to, you know, what the media is telling you about what's happening in this current day. You have to guard your heart. You can't be quick to just absorb it. You have to guard it, be on guard, be at the front door and be like, hold on one second, who's coming in here? Who are you? Where did you come from? What are you saying to me right now? Right, and that's in Proverbs 4:23. Just a second, that point, but from the 1950s has really been prevalent. You know, they're shaping it through rock culture.
For sure.
You know, rock culture. You had men, you know, dressing up in, you know, them they had long hair, lipstick, you know, makeup on their faces. You know, they were doing satanist symbols and so on and so on. So, and that's just, you know, rock music was the pocket for them now, but they spread to so many other genres.
Absolutely.
You know, so many other genres. You know, just displaying that imagery. But so I would say, okay, so this is what. So we're gonna go more into the mentality of a nihilist. What did Brother Wow say? He said, too many irreversible effects created by TV shows and media we grew up watching.
Absolutely.
Right. I wouldn't say it's irreversible. I wouldn't say it's irreversible. It definitely is reversible. You know, if we seek the Most High and we really just, you know, apply ourselves to, you know, to understanding and just really use His word to, you know, cleanse us and, you know, restore us back to the image we was created in. I wouldn't say it's, but it's a lot of damage. I will say that.
For sure.
Generally in the youth.
I was gonna say quickly. I came across like this quote that I told you about. There's this like 19th century Russian novelist, and his name's like Dostoevsky, a Russian guy, and he prophetically put this. He said, "First, art will imitate life, then life will imitate art, and finally, life will draw the very reason of its existence from the arts." Like, did you hear that? First, art will imitate life. We think about the paintings that we saw, Monet, you know what I mean? Yeah, all those kind of paintings, and then life will imitate art, and then finally, the life will draw the very reason of its existence from the arts. And that's what's happening now. That's the reason why things are so bleak nowadays. That's the reason why it's darker. Everything we see is darker. In entertainment, it's darker. In movies, in music, it's all dark. It's all darkness. And that's what they're doing. They're predictively programming us into that.
Right.
Because they know what the end is, or what they think the end is. Do you understand? So it's for us to, like you said, just guard our hearts and our minds, and really just submit high, and we do that every day by just reading the word. Like
Right.
Rachel said, renewing your mind. So it's
Right.
important, man. It's important.
So we have so when we go into the mentality of a nihilist, yeah, we're gonna go into more of the mentality, more of the inner workings behind their thoughts and reasons. And so there's a few notes here. So generally this is a person that's traded meaning for happiness, right? And happiness being, the pleasant and contented mind state. So just being content. Oh, I'm content with where I'm at. I don't need to do this, and I'm doing that. So that's their happiness. It's being content.
Yeah.
Just being stable with it. So that's what they trade for in the place of meaning. Instead of finding meaning, I'm fine now. They genuinely believe that nothing is real. Nothing really matters. Oh, I'm gonna die anyway. It doesn't matter. Whatever. I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? It's just they will escape every hour in a pill or some sort of drug. They need a drug to kind of enjoy life, or to be an enjoyable person. They need a pill. They need some sort of substance. And then, but then when we're obviously looking at these people, it's like sometimes you can be like, oh, why don't you just face reality? But the fact of the matter is that most of them genuinely don't know what reality is, so they won't be able to face it. We've got a question here. It says, why does media portray religious content as bad and cool? How do we change this? One of the reasons why I think, someone else in the comments might, have, another view as well. But one of the things that I think that why they portray it as bad and cool is that there's a group of people. I would just say it's a clear divide between. There's two types of people. One that believe in subjectivity, and others that believe in objectivity. So subjective people, or people that believe in subjectivity, they want to shape the world according to their feelings and emotions.
Exactly.
And what religion does, religion makes things black and white. So it's not about feelings. So when you hear that, when they hear a message about, the Bible or any sort of, do moral guidelines, these are people that, will portray it bad because they can't live out, their subjectivity has no place to land, and they become frustrated.
Exactly.
And instead of them, really, submitting, or just really taking the time to really break it down and to say, okay, this makes sense or it doesn't make sense or whatever, and to let the truth have a place to land, they would rather just dismiss it straight away. So that's why they label it as bad. They'll do anything to really paint in a bad light to escape submitting to it. But yeah, that's really what I believe at heart the problem is. When they hear about any sort of religion or any sort of moral or guideline, they see it more as, they see morality or religious morality as some sort of restriction rather than protection, like a hedge of protection.
Exactly.
But that's really what it is. I'm not gonna really go into this too much, because this can be a subject for another day. But for example, we had a situation with, what was it, Jada and what's his name, August?
Will. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Will and Jada, like Jada had an affair with Will.
Yeah.
Not Will, with August Alsina. And there are people that are out there that that don't really have any regard for morality. They will just go out there and do whatever they do, self-seeking. I don't feel good, so therefore I'm gonna make myself feel better, and I'm gonna go out there and sleep with whoever. Now, if you look at that interview, Jada, that's something that Jada did, and she entertained the affair with August. Now, the Bible has concrete guidelines towards doing certain things. Some people see it as restriction, but really and truly it's protection, because Jada's gone into this whole affair now, and then out of all of it, she's come and said she wished she didn't have to go through that, because it caused a lot of pain, it caused a lot of disruption. I mean, she said she wishes she didn't have to go through that. So really and truly, what we can see is what's written in this Bible from 2,000 years ago, or 30 AD, or 70 AD, or whenever, is being written there to protect us. But there's two views about that. You either see it as restriction or protection, but some people just want to learn, the hard way. That's what it is. Is there another Yeah, you said entanglement. It's funny as well. As I said, I didn't want to go into this, but I saw that word entanglement. If you look up the definition of entanglement, yeah, what does it say? I actually have it in my notes somewhere. So the definition of entanglement. I just copied it from Google, so you can go on Google and find the definition of entanglement, because that's what she described it as. She said, when we look at the word entanglement, it says an extensive barrier, typically made of interlaced barbed wire and stakes, erected to impede enemy soldiers or vehicles. Right, so entanglement is like a barbed wire going around to stop vehicles and enemy soldiers going in. So that's an entanglement. That's set around as protection, because it's supposed to stop the enemy from coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if you entered an entanglement, you've wandered out of the way of protection. You know what I'm saying? You're going towards the enemy, and you got caught up in something that wasn't meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just wanted to add onto what you said there, about the voting.
Just to quickly sum up, like the arts or media that we're used to seeing. There's this apologist that I really like, and I his work a lot, and he came up with this statement that says, he says, unless we get a glimpse of eternity, the arts will only take us to the edge, if not into the abyss. Mm-hmm. And I'll say that again. He says, unless we get a glimpse of eternity, which is obviously only through Christ,
mm-hmm.
the arts will only take us to the edge, if not into the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how dangerous it is, because they know they're playing a very dangerous role where they know they're leading you to destruction. They're leading you to death, to actual death, and their plan is to obviously cast an air of uncertainty around life, and say that life is not meaningful at all. Do you understand? So we can't take that lightly. Do you know what I mean? We have to combat that with our morality. Do you know what I mean? And if especially people that believers, if you really do believe, we have to have that responsibility to say that no, we're not gonna watch this show, or no, we're not gonna, you know what I mean, like go to the club or whatever, just because I know, like you said, the word entanglement will end up getting entangled into what they've put before us, that trap they put before us, So I feel like nihilism is just a major tool that the enemy is using in this final hour to just draw people and push people to abyss, to life to non-existence in life. Do you understand? So yeah, man, it's important that we guard our hearts, man. And I was gonna actually read the scripture, but I can leave it to the end if you want.
Yeah, you can read the scripture, bro. What scripture?
No, this is pertaining to the people that have really heard our message, and maybe they've thought that they want to take responsibility and really really choose to what they ingest, you know what I mean, or what they entertain themselves with, because entertainment, the core meaning of entertainment is detained for entry. That's what the core definition of it is, detained for entry. So you're detaining yourself for whatever, you're allowing whatever to enter you, through detention. Do you understand? So whatever we say, whatever we listen to, whatever we watch, we're detaining ourselves for that to enter us, whether we believe it or not. Unconsciously, that's what happens. Do you understand? Unconsciously, it stays in our mind. There's a reason, like I said earlier on, that we can watch certain movies, we can listen to certain music, and that can have an effect on our behavior later on. Do you understand? But if we want to have that responsibility to take what the word says is the new man, then I'll read this scripture and hopefully it blesses you. It says, this is Ephesians 4:17, the new man. It says, this I say therefore and testify in the Lord, that you should no longer walk as the rest of the Gentiles walk, in the futility of their mind, having their understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart, who being past feeling have given themselves over to lewdness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But you have not so learned Christ, if indeed you have heard him and have been taught by him, and as the truth is in Jesus, that you put off concerning your former conduct
Hallelujah.
the old man which grows corrupt according to the deceitful lusts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, and that you
Deceitful.
put on the new man which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. So that kind of goes on to another topic that we can speak about in the future. But I feel like people really underestimate who Christ is. Like when you ask somebody who Christ is, the first thing they say is like, oh, he came to die for our sins. And although that's true, like he needed that blood sacrifice, but he does so much more than that. He literally reconciles us with the Father as it should have been with in the beginning. You know what I mean? Before the fall of man. So this is what the new man is. Literally, that's what the scripture just said, is reconciling us. We're putting on the new man, which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness, you know. And that's our responsibility, to choose what we detain to enter us.
Right. And that verse that you read just now is very powerful, man. It just says, you know, you ought to put off the old man, which is in brackets. It says, according to your way of living before, who is corrupt, according to the deceitful lust. So we just went into an example about, you know, Jada. You know, she wanted to do whatever she wanted to do. Just not to think about Jada, but just to show about deception and how things are deceitful. Because it would say, oh, your happiness is over there, and you go into something that, you know, didn't make you happy. Even me myself, you know, I've had those times where, you know, I've had arguments with people, you know, that I've loved or whatever, and, you know, I've tried to destroy the relationship and go left, and go left to, you know, something that just was out to destroy me. You know what I mean? So it's a deceitful lust that we just have to, you know, detach and separate ourselves from. And it says, be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Right? No, be renewed in the spirit of your mind. And that's through what? The washing of the word. And then I'm going to go back up to verse 18. It says,
What's going on, my brother Mac? What's going on, man?
I'm going to go back up to verse 18 that says, having the understanding darkened. Right? So I would describe this whole nihilism as being a dark cloud that's hanging over the youth.
For sure.
Right. So we said having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that's in them. Now, the ignorance is a choice. You know, we know this is, you know, the core. We can either choose to research something or look into it further, or we can choose to just leave it as a distance. And honestly, this is what, you know, the nihilistic culture is encouraging. It's trading the truth.
Exactly.
You know, it's just trading knowledge for ignorance.
Exactly.
Right. And I believe one of the main driving forces behind nihilism is narcissism. If you have people obsessed with themselves, that's a place where they can extract opinions from, their own feelings. They can keep the focus on themselves rather than, you know, keep the focus on God. You know, something higher than themselves is all turned in. So, you know, I believe, I'm not trying to get at anybody if you're watching, you know what I'm saying, but one of the main ways, you know, that narcissism kind of brews up is all this selfie taking, you know, cameras all up in your face, or, you know what I'm saying, you're always posting what you're wearing, or, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it as there, but, you know, narcissism really is, at the core, it's an obsession with yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's me, it's everything revolves around me. You know what I'm saying? Check me out. It's a very self-exaltation, exalting spirit. That's what narcissism really is. And we have the medias here that are, you know, most of the medias here are to really cultivate that, you know, like Instagram, you know, Twitter, you know, everyone's posting pictures of themselves, or, you know, speaking their minds or whatever. And the retweets and the likes really just feed into that, you know, feed into the narcissism. So, and also a very interesting, a very key word that we have to discuss as well is hedonism.
For sure.
Hedonism actually is we could say it's the fertilizer for nihilism, right? And do you have a word to share on what hedonism is, bro, or should I go straight into it?
Yeah, go straight into it, man.
Okay, so hedonism originated from, you know, ancient Greek civilization. why it's relevant to this day is that it's a Western philosophy. We live in the Western world, and things that happened before create the basis for our society today. Right. So what hedonism is the pursuit of pleasure, essential self-indulgence, which we see even through adverts when it comes to food. You know, how they just try and make it really enticing and, oh, indulge, spoil yourself. You know what I mean? We have that, there's that kind of, you know, hedonism's at the core of a lot of things. Adverts, you know, the music, it's just self-indulgence. Oh, I've got all the money, all the clothes, the girl. This is hedonism. This came from ancient Greece. So it says it was said to have started by Aristippus of Cyrene. If you look this up on Google or whatever book you have, but the idea that he had was that pleasure is the highest good. Right? So it says the hedonistic lifestyle refers to a pleasure-oriented lifestyle. With the following preferences: the highest value is the experience of pleasure. So they argue that seeking pleasure and avoiding suffering are the only components of well-being. Right? And the synonyms would be indulgent, luxurious, overindulgent, and so on and so forth. Now, one example that we want to get into when it comes to hedonism, I'm sure, you know, if you have a comment to share on hedonism or overindulgence, please share it. But one of the thoughts that we have is that, for example, we go on a night out, or someone goes on a night out and they drink. It feels nice, you know what I'm saying? Drink and get drunk. And you could say that you're pursuing the idea of pleasure. You know, you're pursuing, you're seeking pleasure at that point. But the next morning, you have the worst hangover. So when in pursuit of pleasure, this just shows us, this is one example. If you have any other examples in the comments, feel free to share them. But this is one example that when you pursue pleasure, pain is literally just around the corner. So a hedonistic lifestyle, although you try and seek things that, you know, that you view as pleasure, the repercussions are going to come down the line. So you can't live a purely, you know, good hedonistic lifestyle. That's just setting you up for traps further down the line. And this philosophy, this idea came from ancient Greece, as we can see. And it's the underlying, we could say that's the fertilizer for nihilism. Really, because it keeps people self-indulgent, self-seeking, you know, eyes on self. You know, the only thing that matters is me right now. And yeah, that adds to the brim part. So that's just a quick branch off into what hedonism is. Not sure if you want to add into, you know, what hedonism is.
No, you pretty much wrapped it up, man. Pretty much covered it. But I agree with that statement that you can see it as like the fertilizer for nihilism, you know? And we see that through not only just pop culture, but also with social media. That's like one of the biggest drivers of hedonism. You know, what we see on Twitter, just that self-aggrandizement that you could do whatever you want, you know what I mean? It's all about self. And we see that, everybody sees it, you know, and you kind of fall into that trap very easily if you're not in the spirit. So it's very, very important that we have to keep our flesh subject to the spirit. So
and also just to refresh, I know some of our viewers haven't been here from the beginning, but this is something that we haven't even gone over already. So we're going to go back into nihilism, the definition. Actually, we're not going to go into the definition because we defined what it is already.
Yeah,
it's the rejection of all religious and moral principles. But these are the forms. There's many forms. In the moral view, the form of nihilism in the moral view is a view that morality does not exist. Therefore, no action is preferable to another.
Yeah.
Then you have spiritual, which is the belief that life has no intrinsic meaning or value. Then intellectual, which is how it applies people intellectually. An extreme form of skepticism in which all knowledge is denied. And political, which we are seeing today, it promotes the obliteration of all existing political, social, and religious institutions as a precondition for any and all future advancements in society. I'm going to read that again. The form of nihilism politically promotes the obliteration of all existing political, social, and religious institutions as a precondition for any and all future advancements in society. Now I read that twice. If that reminds anybody of a movement or any sort of, you know, group that's happening today, or any mentality, feel free to let us know in the comments. But that's the forms of nihilism. You have moral, spiritual, intellectual, and political.
Is there any questions in the comments? Any questions from the viewers?
Any questions? And while we're waiting for some questions, I just want to raise another point that we forgot to touch on when we were talking about the media, the music, the artists.
Yeah.
What's happening now is that all the artists, as you know, most of them are signed to, you could say some of them are signed to the same label, whether or not it's the same label. So it's the same, they're underneath the same umbrella. You know what I'm saying? The music industry. There's different labels that are run by people that have one mind. You know what I'm saying? They're of one conglomerate, and they're all trying to put the same thing out there.
Yeah.
In the charts. They're competing against each other with who can submit to, you know, the sound or the movement that, you know, the whole industry's moving in. One thing that these artists are responsible is for something called groupthink. Whatever trends they bring out. So, for example, Nicki Minaj can come out in like a purple wig or something like that. Then all of a sudden, we see everybody else having a purple wig. But that's what you can visibly see. You can visibly see the purple wig. What you can't see is what the lyrics have implanted in hearts of people. But you can sort of see already who's kind of submitted or who's kind of following who, like through groupthink. So like the blonde wigs or a certain type of dress, or even the words that you say. You know what I'm saying? Some people might have a new lingo one day. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole groupthink implication of trends that's going on. But they, you know, but everyone wants to in this whole, you know, realm of nihilism, they're individuals. I'm my uncle. Yes, uncle. So soaking up some knowledge. But everyone thinks they're weird and different, but they're all the same. You know what I'm saying? In this, you know, as a result of, you know, being submersed or in this pop culture. Groupthink is a very big part of it. Antisocial. I should have told someone else in the. I don't want to ramble with that a lot, but there's a big antisocial theme that's also being pushed with nihilism.
Yeah, for sure.
If anyone else has something to say about, you know, being antisocial, what antisocial does with the core of it, in the comments, feel free. Because being antisocial should not be normalized. There's a few artists that are pushing for it to be normalized.
For sure.
But you know, if you want to be a servant of Christ, you can't be antisocial. That's not, you know. Imagine if Christ came here and he was antisocial. You know, not trying to heal nobody, not trying to preach the word. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You can't function. You're only self-seeking. Only let me just be by myself. I love myself. Let me just keep myself to the side. You can't work for, you know, the highest good if you're anti-social. You have to socialize. You have to deny ourselves. Also, we want to talk about this. We spoke about something earlier. What was it? The form of nihilism, which is political, which suggests that, you know, when you speak about nihilists, these are people that want destruction, not necessarily thinking about what the destruction will implement or what it will cause, but they just want destruction. Oh, defund this and obliterate that and get rid of this. But they're not thinking deeper, like behind the scenes. Okay, what's really gonna be the implications if I get rid of this or get rid of that? Exactly. So it's just pure destruction. And while they push for these things, you know, it's not from a, you know, as we said before, not from a logical or from a standpoint of reasoning. It's all emotional. It's all hypersensitive. You know, shouting and, you know, creating a ruckus and just, you know, and causing mayhem. This is as a result of, you know, people saying that they wear their heart on their sleeve. I don't know when since this has become a good thing to wear your heart on your sleeve, but I just just to clarify, it's not a badge of honor to wear your heart on your sleeve. It's there were some scriptures that I should have found as well. I probably will think of one from the top of my head in a minute, but we do not want to be these hypersensitive, emotional people that are running around doing things out of emotion. Emotions are fickle. Emotions can change 1 minute and be completely different another. We want to stand on the truth. The truth is a steady and sure foundation. We're not doing anything via emotions or how we feel or whatever. So one thing as well that's really big, just to wrap that up, one thing that's really big in this culture right now is, you know, just being emotional. And if people say, yeah, you can do things for emotion and stuff, no, that causes more damage, more harm than good. So you want to get out of that mindset that when our emotions in our sleeve it's just not a badge of honor. These are not forms. We would say these are results. So you can see that these are two different spectrums of nihilism. Shalom, bro. Shalom.
Shalom.
These are two spectrums. So we have normative. I don't want to keep killing people with these terms, but I'm just going to throw some buzzwords out here that are the fruits of nihilism out there. So we have normative, which is, you know, just regular, you could say surface level, which is, you know, the fruits of nihilism, which is depression, anxiety, hyper-consumerism. We're going to go back over these and explain them. Hyper-consumerism, promiscuity, and materialist worldview. So I'm going to read those. I'm going to read these through again. This is the messages that are pushed through the music. So we have depression, which, you know what, we've already touched on. One artist, Juice WRLD, speaks about how depressed he is, and
there's many of them.
Demons is fighting. Many of them. That's just one that I picked out. And this is the message. This is what's on radio. Most times it's cloaked through like a love song. There's this one song that they was playing at my job, and I was thinking, man, I feel you, bro. Like, man, that must be so hard. And that's what they want you to tune into. It's kind of like a lower frequency. It's what's that guy's name? The lyrics go, I was getting kind of used to being someone you loved. I let my guard down, then you pulled the rug.
Yeah.
I let my guard down. And then
the Scottish guy.
I forgot his name. Yeah, but bro, that song is so from the heart that it's like you hear it and you're like, whoa. It brings you that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a whoa. And if you ever had an experience in the past where you've really been like heartbroken, it brings it back to the surface. And this is the frequency they want to keep us on. So that's just one point. We have depression, anxiety, hyper-consumerism. Ariana Grande had a song. It was like, I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it. Do you know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's actually kind of rapping in it. And it's a good little beat. It's a good little flow. But the core of it is just, I want it.
That's it.
That's impulsive spending. Hyper-consumerism. Consume. I want that back. I want this. So these are the artists. You listen, you know, these are some themes that are prevalent. Promiscuity. You hear it all the time. Future, Chris Brown. Who else? Basically, all of them are speaking about, take your girl, or I'm with this girl. And I don't want to repeat Lewis Capaldi. That's him, Lewis Capaldi.
That's it.
I don't repeat the lyrics, but you know what I'm saying. Promiscuity is a heavy theme in the music industry, and this is all what nihilism has in common. Yes, that's it. Someone you love. That's a song. Thank you very much. I believe that might be Chelsea. How you doing, Chelsea? And materialist worldview. Then we can go that because so those come under normative. Then we have deep nihilism, which includes suicidal ideation. Suicidal.
Okay.
Lil Uzi Vert. Kid Cudi. XXX. Tentacion.
Man.
It goes on.
Goes on and on.
The obsession and infatuation with suicide, self-harm, obsessive tattooing, Wiz Khalifa, eat my whole body, I don't give a, eat my whole body. Then you have, who else? There's many artists that are just super tattooed up. Even Post Malone, who's got tattoos all over his face now. Murder, or brutal violence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is, you know, one thing where I believe a lot of black artists in the community didn't speak out, and, you know, I don't want to speak about the organization Black Lives Matter, but, you know, when there was like a lot of killing going on, because this has been in our music, this has been in our communities for decades, speaking about murder and violence. You shoot this man, or I'm gonna murder, come after you. I've got a big AK, I've got a Draco. Yeah. But you're gonna speak like this to everyone, you know, each and every one of your brothers or whoever it is. But you've just created, you've done more to contribute to the murder and violence through your music, through your words, rather than to call it. So nothing at this point you say now is gonna, you know what I'm saying, it's gonna be effective. And also, what else comes under deep nihilism is prostitution. So not just promiscuity, prostitution or whoredom, and this is increased by drug use and media indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
And the behaviors of this industry are found within the general audience, which is the people that's listening to it and not guarding their gates. So
you see, like,
I'm
the
not sure if you see that.
normalization of OnlyFans. Have you seen that? Like every girl's got an OnlyFans because they're liberated to do it. Oh, I can do it.